welcome everyone to another episode of the Lorepod podcast. I'm your guys' host, Dakota Morgan, coming to you from Phoenix, Arizona. And today we are going to be talking about the stars, specifically the Star Trek, one might say. So we are going to be looking at Star Trek Lower Decks, TV show, animated TV show from Paramount Plus. At least hopefully it's still Paramount Plus as of this recording. You never know with streaming services. They tend to change their name all the time. But we're going to be looking at Star Trek Lower Decks. There might be some spoilers for you, so watch out. But in the beginning here, I'm going to cover the lore. And then at the end, kind of go over discussion because, spoiler alert, this show is 5 seasons and it has come to a close. As of this recording in 2024, I believe it was, it has come to a close, everybody. So Lower Decks is a thing, and we're going to cover it. Let's dive into Star Trek Lower Decks. Alrighty, so the lore for the Lorepod came out in 2020, lasted about 5 seasons, and it follows actually the Lower Decks crew, as you would imagine. So it actually follows people not on the bridge or anything like that, but the lower ensigns, actually. Something we've seen a little bit of throughout the Star Trek lore, like TV shows, a little bit of movies and things, but Lower Decks is a show where you just get to know these people. And by these people, let's go ahead and go over our crew here. We got Ensign Beckett Mariner, played by Tawny Newsome. We have Brad Boimler, played by the legendary Jack Quaid. Devon Attendi, Noel Wells. And Sam Rutherford, played by Eugene Cordero. And these four are our main cast we follow throughout the show here on the USS Cerritos. Now, when does this take place? That is a big theme in Star Trek lore, as we know. 2380 for that star date, and it takes place 1 year after the Star Trek Nemesis movie. So, for those who don't know, we're looking at a timeline, a little bit is after Nemesis, but we're still dealing with Picard, Riker, all the crew like that. Now, in Lower Decks, so it is a cartoon, and I remember back when it first came out in 2020, everybody was, hey, I should also make it clear, I am a Trekkie, but everybody was, it's a cartoon, it's going to be campy, it's going to be stupid, blah, 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 blah. It was on Paramount, and it was a whole thing. But, needless to say, it was a breakout show. This show is one where it's an adult TV show. They cuss, but they bleep it out, which is, I find, fucking hilarious, to be honest with you. It's just really fucking hilarious. And, of course, we have that thing where they do adult jokes. They talk about adult things. They have messages every episode, whether it's fun, it's entertainment, but there's some episodes I will say that are just kind of fun. And they're not really a filler episode. It's just a fun episode. Kind of along the lines of every episode is a new storyline sort of thing. Very rarely would there be a through line story through it, just like at the TOS era, those original scientist era, if you know what I mean. Wink, wink. So it's an adult comedy for damn sure. I mean, MA mature, maybe sometimes I guess I would say, because they're, they talk about sex, people die in this show, and they do have some heavy hitting messages in it sometimes, which, as we know, Star Trek doesn't flow away from. And I should also say, this show has a bajillion Easter eggs in it. The TOS, Next Gen, Voyager, might I add, the Enterprise show, needless to say, like the original series, it is insane. Even the new Star Trek Discovery, stuff with that. And we're going to get started here on Strange New Worlds, don't get me wrong. But this show is full of Easter eggs throughout it. There are so many storylines, so many events that have happened in this show. It's going to be a pain in the ass to try to cover. So instead, in this episode, kind of just talking about it with you. But as you can imagine, we do follow the Lower Decks. They slowly start to rise up in the show. Very slowly. It's not as easy, but you do see the chaotic fun side. And it's not all serious but it's the chaotic fun side of Star Trek. And I really do appreciate it, but also teetering on a line of serious when it needs to. But I think no matter what kind of Star Trek fan you are, whether you're even one from the Abrams era, if you are one of those, guess what? You can still find something you love in this show. You learn about Star Trek lore. I've had friends who have watched this show, and they've just watched the 3 Abrams movies. I believe that's the Kelvin timeline. And if you take a look at that, they just dive into this show into knowing nothing about Next Gen, Voyager, original series, yada, yada. And they learn so much from it. And they're like, I kind of want to watch everything else now. So it's a gateway drug. The Star Trek Lower Decks is a gateway drug into the fandom, one might say. Because even if you're not, a little bit of Trek and one, like red shirts die, yada yada. You're like, it's the nerd thing. It's like, yeah. When you watch it though, you realize it's actually a lot bigger and greater than you thought. And so as we do follow them, we do see where they go. And one of those places they do go is a crossover actually with one of the brand new hit shows that's lasted 2 seasons. And as of this recording in 2025, it is yet to come out for season 3, but season 3 is coming. Strange New Worlds, Star Trek: The Strange New World show that follows Pike, and it follows Yum Spock, it follows Yanahura, it follows a lot of to say the least here. And that's a beautiful show that we're going to talk about for another time. I will definitely dive into the lore of that. But they did a crossover where Mariner and Boimler actually go live action and played by the original voice cast. They look like they made them look like they're, I mean, you got to give Jack Quaid purple hair. But yeah, they gave him the uniforms, which look stellar and amazing, and had him go through a time portal and did a crossover. And we saw a lot of the other characters from Lower Decks in Strange New Worlds in animation form, but we did get to see the live-action versions of what they look like. And by the way, it matches very well. We could do a Lower Decks live-action movie. Make it so. Make it so. And they had to interact with the whole Strange New Worlds crew. And then at the end of that, we do see the Strange New Worlds crew in animation. They're kind of like, what is in these drinks? Indicating that maybe it's just the drinks. The alcohol is why everything looks animated in Lower Decks. Kind of pulling the thread there a little bit, but I loved it nonetheless. So Lower Decks, I believe. Now, this is, before we get any further here in this podcast, I want to talk about spoilers ahead. Kind of. Let's see what we got here. All right. Take a sip of beer. Hold on. That ended. It's going to be some good ASMR for somebody. Thank you, Voodoo. Voodoo Ranger. All right, so Lower Decks, I think, is a quick little review. I do want to say I am a fan of every episode of the show. I know I like a lot, but there is some stuff I don't like, and I'm not going to talk about the shit I don't fucking like. And I know that people get mad about that. Very few times will I talk about something I don't like. But Lower Decks is a show where I think really nailed it on the head, and as I mentioned earlier, is a show where non-Trekkie or just a little bit of Trekkie people can watch it and learn so much and get inspired. It's the gateway drug. God damn it, the gateway drug. And the character development, the writing, the animations, 2D animation, should have mentioned that, whatever. 2D animation, but it's fantastic. Like, you take a look at it and you say, but then you watch it and you're like, this is beautiful. Like, and you love the animated style that to do with everything. Seeing things from Star Trek history in that animation form too was brilliant, but this the writing, the character development of where they go, and the laughs, while also sometimes making you cry, and as well as those good Star Trek messages in there. Whether heavy-handed or not, sometimes they are. It's still a beautiful show. And I want to say the voice acting for the show, on top of the writing and the animation, is brilliantly done. The voice actors are 100% bringing everything to the table, always with it. And that's what you want to hear and see. Needless to say, Star Trek Lower Decks is going to be missed. Do I believe it's over? I don't know. They now have merchandise coming out. I'm looking at a gold badgie keychain. I have a Mariner keychain on my work backpack too. So there's that, and there's statues coming out and such. So I think with the merchandise sales, we'll see what happens. Rumors are in development of a movie, but we don't talk about too many rumors here on the Lorepod, because it's all about the history, the lore, the dedication of pop culture things. As always, everybody, I have been your host, Dakota Morgan, coming to you from Phoenix, Arizona, talking to you all about Star Trek Lower Decks. And if you enjoyed this, be sure to subscribe wherever you're listening in the cosmos. I was trying to be. Wherever you are listening, James T. Kirk here, coming to you from the Enterprise. All right, that was terrible. But besides that, I like I said, subscribe wherever you listen to the podcast. If you're catching us on YouTube, be sure to catch us on YouTube. Subscribe to the YouTube channel for more Lorepod, but everything else we do on the YouTube channel. If you're just listening, be sure to check the description box for my YouTube channel, Dakota Morgan, where I do video games, Dino Times Paleo Show, and much more over there. And for all my social media as well. And the Twitch channel, CodaRex97. We're all over the place, everybody, and we are coming back strong this year. So stay tuned for more Lorepod and more things all over me, Dakota Morgan. Face, neck, and chest, everybody. And as always, stay classy.